welcome to this concluding part of a very exciting time on writing successful proposals to obtain development funding. I know you have had a great time learning quite a couple of very incisive new applications and as it were new methods for writing successful proposals. And we're about to conclude by looking at some very crucial areas, and one of those areas will be you need to actually do a checklist for planning your proposal letter. This is not by all means a totally complete list, but you could use this as a guide. You need to present certain things. For example, you need to indicate why you are the best organization to help in that particular course. And you could actually give reasons like, your geographical merit, where you are, the fact that you understand the target population sufficiently well. Those are points you could use. And moreover, if you have a personal connection to that target group, it's also a wonderful attribute or point to include in your proposal. Now, can we prove our credentials? You need to be able to provide authentic copies of your accreditations, your registrations, and probably some form of personal bios of your directors and top members of staff, which is very, very important. And it's important to check what you want your reader to do. Particularly, that is the ask. What do you want your reader to do? You are not writing a proposal just for the sake of information. You are writing it specifically to your reader to respond in your expected or appropriate manner. So what impact will the reader's actions have? That's something else you need to put in place when you are planning your proposal letter. What impact will the reader's actions have? The impact the reader's actions will ordinarily have will be to provide the required finance or assistance you need to meet your strategic objectives. Now, how will your letter make them feel? It's very, very important. Are you able to provide a platform where they can feel what you feel, or rather what your target population feels? So we're talking about providing an emotive message, a message which will inspire to give, a message which will evoke a positive response to assist you in your course. So why should the reader act now? Like we said in the previous lesson or class, we made mention of the fact that you must always ask your funders to act now. There must be a sense of urgency. That is why one of the words which we analyzed and looked at closely is the word now. Instantly is another word which can be used to ensure that your potential donors respond to you promptly and do what is required. They need to understand that children are dying now. They need to understand that pregnant women are dying now. They need to understand that because there is no potable water in the community you are working, people are getting infected with diseases now. So you need to make them understand that because it is happening now, they also need to respond now. That is, what you must keep in mind. Now, your donors usually have certain anxieties, and it's good to address those anxieties in your letter, in your proposal. One of them is the donors will say, how do I know I can trust this organization? Trust is a very, very imperative term, and it is an issue which cannot be wished away. So essentially, you must be able to provide the face, or rather the corporate profile that will ensure that your potential donors trust you. And the ways of first providing that is to provide sufficient information about your organization. You need to be transparent, you need to be clear, you need to present a true budget, you need to present a historical picture of what your organization has been involved in before. You need to present your registration certificates, you need to present your charity status, you need to present your true position as an organization. Transparency always elicits trust. When you are found to be transparent, when your organization is found to be transparent, there is every reason to trust you. More so, you have a good idea and a solid idea about what you want to work on. So the donors also have an anxiety like, why are they asking me to donate now? You must be able to prove to the donor that delay will be dangerous or delay will cause further harm to your target population. Now, they will also want to find out whether is this the best way to help. Yes, you need to inform them that certainly their assistance is required in these specific areas that you are asking for help. Now, some of them will want to know, what will my donation achieve? It is wonderful to be able to equate the donation of your potential funder with exact results. And you should be able to say something of this nature, that for $2 a day, for 10 Ghana cedis a day, for 150 naira a day, 1 or 2 or 3 children will be provided with potable water, for this period of time. So the donors want to be able to understand that they can measure the impact of their help, and what their donation achieves in the long run is a reduction in the problems of the areas you are trying to solve. So you must be able to make them understand exactly what you want to achieve by the donations they give to you. So make it in quantifiable terms and they will be happy to receive your proposal. Now, a donor might say, how much of my donation will benefit the cause? This is another area that sometimes is of high concern. Most donors, or rather donors generally, think that in some cases that funds are not well applied by non-profits, by non-governmental organizations, by community-based organizations and the rest of it. So you will need to let them know clearly how you are going to apportion the funds. It's clear, it's good to let them know that the other areas of operation, like your costs for administration, your costs for fundraising, and so many of those miscellaneous costs rather, are an integral part of reaching your target population. So let them know that aside from the direct amounts that will pass into maybe machines or equipment or resource for your target population, your back end, which is essentially your office, your administration expenses, all are part of what makes it possible for you to intervene in your target population. Some of them might have anxieties like, how soon will my donation have an impact? Yes, you must be able to let them know exactly when their donations will have an impact. You need to be time specific. You need to let them know that let them know your deployment time. Okay? Sometimes donors are anxious about how much they should donate. You really must be able to tell your donors your entire proposed budget and what will go into your operation expenses and your capital expenses. You need to present both in very clear terms so that your potential or intending donors will know exactly how much they should donate to your cause. And sometimes they could also wonder if they will be committed to further donations. It's a good thing to allow your donors to understand exactly what you want them to do. Is it a one-off donation or it's a continuing donation? So at every point in time, you need to be able to state specifically how long you want your donors to be involved in what you do. So sometimes they just say, shall I just think about it? Of course, give them an opportunity to think about it. Give them an opportunity to more or less turn it over in their minds. If they are individuals, the decision-making process will not be as complex as if you are speaking with foundations or with the corporates, for example. So with the individuals, the decision-making process is not long, essentially. It might just be family-based, might just be between a couple. But when you get to the corporates and you get to the foundations, that is where you now go through, you know, the rigorous steps of actually having to obtain the help that you need. So we've talked about the donor anxieties, and it is right to put yourself in the place of the donor and understand exactly what your donors, you know, expect of you and whatever anxieties they have. In a way and in your manner of presentation in your proposal, you should be able to address those anxieties. So quickly, let us look at copywriting insights and best practice. Your copy length should be as long as it needs to be. Essentially, that is, your letter of proposal should be as long as it needs to be. You know, that is essentially, you know, what it should be. Copywriters usually break some rules, you know. Sometimes they use contractions like, you know, isn't it, and to start a sentence with with a conjunction rather, and or but. But vary sentence length and use sentence fragments because it works. All right? Okay, and sometimes sentences should ideally contain no more than 25 words. When writing your letters, ensure that your sentences don't contain more than 25 words at a time. And avoid in-house jargon, scientific and medical issues, because really your donors might not understand what you're trying to put across, because that those in-house jargons might just be native to your organization. So as much as is possible, whenever you have to use scientific or medical language, you should be able to do an explanation of what it actually entails. And write as if you are talking to the person sitting close to you or next to you. We'll be looking at the difference between doing a presentation copy or a conversational copy. It's crucial to understand that we need to make our proposals in everyday language. We need to make our proposals in conversational copies. We need to make our proposals, you know, in terms of grammar that is easily understood and we are not complex in any way. All right? So now if you look at the next part of it, we're looking at personalization. That is no substitute for getting personal. Now, what we mean by that essentially is that when you say personal presentation, that is captured in language, tone, and style. Okay? So a personal conversation is captured in language, tone, and style. Formality creates distance, but friendliness engenders trust. That is one other issue we raised at the beginning, that if it's possible for you to have a meeting with your intending donors before you make your proposals, it will be wonderful, because at that level you can develop some level of friendliness or friendship, as the case may be, and that might engender some trust in your organization. And conversational language engages and persuades better than presentational. All right? So never type or use words or phrases that you wouldn't say in a conversation. It's important that we try to make our letters as less formal as possible, because formality creates distance, but friendliness, you know, and some level of closeness, engenders trust. All right? So now we are going to be looking at the different terms that could be used, looking at the conversational copy, which persuades better than the presentational copy. If you look at these words on your slide, you will see assist, the other is help. So what you will observe there is that assist is essentially a presentational copy. Help is a conversational copy. All right, so you look at allow or enable. If you look at eliminate, rather than say eliminate, say remove, avoid. Now, the eliminate there is basically the presentational copy, while the remove and avoid is the conversational copy. So it goes down in that manner. Optimum, rather than say optimum, say best. Rather than say superior, say better. Rather than say purchase, say buy. Rather than say select, say choose. Rather than say utilize, say use. Rather than say spend, say invest. Rather than use the word database, say information. Or rather than use information, say news and facts. Rather than say indicate, say show. Rather than use the word regarding, say about. Regulation, rule. Discuss. Rather than say discuss, say let's talk about it. Rather than talk about publications, right? Talk about magazines and newsletters and online. So these are just a few examples of conversational copies which are better than presentational copies. I'm sure you can just do a little exercise on your own and come up with, many such examples which would present, very clear difference between the conversational copies and the presentational copies. Now, it is great for your letters to be clear and concise. If you look at the examples set here, on the left is an attempt to say what is on the right there. So when you read what is on the left and you see what is on the right, you understand that there is such a huge difference. And what will happen ordinarily is that your intending funder or grant provider will get weary of too many words you have used here rather than the short phrases there. All right, so again we say that cognitive ease makes people more likely to believe what they read and trust their intuition, while cognitive effort makes people more vigilant and less likely to act on impulse. So when we use presentational copies in place of conversational copies, what we do is that we create a situation where our intending donors, whether they are individuals, whether they are corporates or foundations or even government for that matter, they need to use a lot of effort to understand what we're trying to say. And from what we see here, cognitive effort makes people more vigilant and less likely to act on impulse. So that is what presentational copies will do to you. When you present your proposals in such a manner, what happens essentially is that there is less trust for you, there's less confidence in what you do. But when you put your intending funders at ease cognitively, what the result is that you make them more likely to believe what they read and they trust their intuition. All right? So when you're writing a persuasive copy, always maximize legibility, use familiar words, reduce formality, and avoid using multiple starts. Very, very important for us to understand the fourth point here, that the use of multiple starts only further compounds or confuses the situation. It's not to your advantage to use multiple starts in any conversational letter. as much as is possible, reduce the amount of stats that you use. Okay? And never write to individual people as if they were a group. It's important to know that you must write to the people, you must write to people in specific terms, not as a group. So for example, if you look at this, it says, those that remember Royal Blind in their wills make a lasting contribution that will be remembered for many years to come. So when you say those that remember, it's like you're talking to a whole group. But when you choose to remember Royal Blind in your will, you will be making a lasting contribution that will be remembered for many years to come. The copy on the right has more chances of winning acceptance and winning approval from an intending donor. So involve your reader, place them in the situation. For example, 90% of people will suffer from arthritis. That is very far-fetched. But when you say your chances of escaping arthritis are just 1 in 10, you bring your intending funder or grant provider into the situation. Okay? And also do not generalize, be specific, and also be dramatic. Don't generalize. Generalizing will not help your cause. You must be specific as to, one, the locations you are trying to reach. You must be specific as to the numbers you're trying to reach. If you see, it says here, on the left it says, children are dying because of shortage of clean drinking water. That's why we are asking you to help us by providing their villages with clean water wells. Now, that is a generalized and very unspecific proposal. But if we say 100 children die each day because they don't have clean drinking water, just 1 cup of clean water each day is all they need to survive. Your gift of just $10 will help provide clean drinking water for hundreds of children every day. In short, a better form of this would be to include the locality, to include, the exact geographical location. So we could say that your gift of just $10 will help provide clean drinking water for hundreds of children in the Greater Accra region of Ghana every day. So that, makes it very specific and at the same time dramatic. Now, be careful of the word will. Write in the present tense to create imperative. Don't say these children will die if we don't get help to them very soon. Rather, what you should say is that these children are dying right now. Please help them today. This will certainly get a higher level of response and acceptance from an intending donor than the first one. So look at another example. Hundreds more refugees arrive every day. Food and medical supplies will soon run out. There again, you need to be careful of the use of the word will, but rather say 100 more refugees arrive every day. Food and medical supplies are running out. When you do that, you more or less captivate the intending donor or the potential donor to the point, of giving. Now, remember to use a Johnson box, pardon me. It's a powerful fixing point. People will read anything that appears in the box before they read the main copy. So, your most important message, and I will want to say your ask and your ask and the statement of your problem, the cause of the problem and the statement of the problem, you should put in your Johnson box and you're sure to get your response. Actually, 2 things are very important. Your postscript and your Johnson box. They are very, very crucial to getting the attention of your intending donor. There are 3 major aspects of your letter: your headlines, your Johnson box, and then your postscript. These 3 important areas are the areas that intending donors look at very quickly, and they consider, before they begin to look at the main text of your letter. Okay? So for statistics, we've said again, do not use more than 2 stats in a sentence. Do not end your letter with stats, so that you can start with emotions and end with emotions. Very, very important. In your macro, your epic stories and shocking statistics provide drama and scale. And in your micro, stories about individuals resonate on a personal and emotional level. You must be able to provide 2 scenarios, if you can, within your letter, of the macro and the micro. Now, in considering stats again, there is a deep gap between how people think about stats and how they think about individual cases. When people are taught surprising statistical facts about human dilemmas, their understanding of the situation does not really change. The mind does not deal well with stats. So it's important for us to understand something, that rather than do stats as a major input of your letter, rather do what I would say will be the macro stories and the micro stories. Just like we saw in the preceding slide, where we talked about, epic stories and shocking statistics provide drama and scale, while stories about individuals resonate on a personal and emotional level. So you can see that a combination of stories at these 2 levels actually help in getting your story across. That is not to say stats are not essential. Stats should be used sparingly, but it's been discovered that it does not really change how people perceive situations, in a particular environment. So using stats and social proof to persuade. You can use stats and social proof to persuade. You can see what we have here. For example, let's say only 11% of people with arthritis currently know about Arthritis Research UK. Something we must change. All right? So that's by Arthritis Research UK. Now, thank you for opening this letter. Many of you might have thought it was rubbish and thrown away. Action aids. So those are, this is one without stats. That is another, this is, the left is with stats. The other is without stats. So you must, as much as possible, do a combination of stats and social proof to persuade. As you read through, you will observe the use of stats in a combination with social proof. So use consistency, give people a reputation to live up to. Now, very quickly, let's do this, to round up on this particular segment. Now, when you do your proposal letters and you make your presentations, in certain instances, the responses are not positive. So how do we manage and deal with the negative? Let's understand something. Most of the times, the responses are responses you could work with and now make better presentations next time, or you go back to the same organization, or you go back to another organization and you do better. But however, we need to look at how it works in certain places. Now, what you should consider is this: was the negative response conditional or categorical? If it was conditional, it means based on certain specific conditions, they will respond to you better. But if it's categorical, then it's a total no. You know that you don't have a choice, or you don't have a chance, rather, with that organization. Now, was the funder that you approached, were they interested in the application? You must find out from them if they are interested, but yet they told you no. Now, can the funder be persuaded to say yes? That is something you should also try to find out. Was there anything about the application which could have been improved? How important was this application to fundraising, and how much time and money has been invested in the application? Okay? You also need to find out, was your application shortlisted? How many other applications were there? How many other applications went before the trustees? Can this funder be approached at a later date? When? So you need to find this out, whether or not the funder can be approached at a later date for the same project or for something else. Now, in managing and dealing with negative responses, you need to find out, can this application be used for other applications? What are the other options? What is the reaction to the refusal in the organization? What is the reaction? I mean, how do you react as an organization to a refusal of funding from, one of your either individual potential funders, corporate potential funders, or foundations for that matter? Are you angry? Are you disappointed? Or you don't care? Or will there be a determination to do better next time? I would rather choose the last one, that is to have a determination to do better next time. Now, so remember to answer these questions honestly. It will help to decide whether reapproaching is a good use of time. The time might be better spent trying something else. All right? Now, I'm going to be asking you, you're going to be seeing some samples of responses which you need to more or less understand how to deal with. But understand that every fundraiser, however experienced, receives a proportion of negative responses. It's normal. It's part of the industry. However, it's important to distinguish between a categorical and a conditional no. So let us look at the following. How would you respond to the following? One, the backlog of applications awaiting consideration is such that I very much regret that no further applications can be accepted. How do you respond to that? The backlog of applications awaiting consideration is such that I very much regret that no further applications can be accepted. It means essentially that your application was not vetted. It was not rejected on the strength of the application itself, but because of the sheer backlog of applications which they have, and as an organization they might not be able to cope with it. So that is not a no, it's a conditional no. It's not a categorical no, but a conditional no. Okay, let's look at another one. I very much regret that we are unable to support your appeal, but I should like to take this opportunity to wishing you every success in your search for funds. I very much regret that we are unable to support your appeal. That is a categorical no, because they cannot, support you. Okay, another says, I am sorry to say that the purpose for which you are requesting grant aid falls outside the foundation's current priorities, and we will therefore be unable to help you. That is a categorical no, because your strategic objectives, your goals and your missions do not fall, they're not in consonance with what this potential funder will want to do. Okay, and we regret that we cannot respond to your current application. It will have been a more precise it will have to be a more precise application and a development from the scheme outlined in your letter. That is a conditional no. So you need to go back to the drawing board to put together a better one. All right? So how would you respond to this? The foundation's funds are fully allocated at present. If you are able to secure the bulk of the funding required for this project from other sources, it may be possible to include your appeal in the list for the trustees' autumn meeting. What is that? That is a conditional no. So what they are saying to you essentially is that as at this moment, they are fully booked. But if you come, at a later date, you will get a hearing from them. Another says, I hope you understand that I can only contact you again if a grant is made. It's also, this is more or less, they are asking you to hold on for their decision-making process to be complete. Now, another says your request has been considered at the Trust 6 monthly meeting along with some 50 others. I'm sorry to inform you on this occasion, you were unsuccessful. Please do not hesitate to approach us again in the future. This in itself is a conditional no, because they have said to you that your request has been considered, but on this particular occasion, it was not successful. All right? So many things could make it unsuccessful. You need to find out what those things are and then do your correction and approach again. Now, look at these. How will you respond to these? This looks tricky, but let's just take it as we round up. He said, this was fairly unusual grant for us to make, and our funding remit has recently been adjusted so that we will be most unlikely to be able to help again. What is it say? What are they saying to you? They are saying that what they've done is a one-off thing. So they will not be able to do the same next time, and it was unusual for them to do this in the first place. Okay, the second one there is the trustees are carrying out an evaluation of existing grants. When considering applications, the trustees will take into account the financial position of the application and purpose for which the grant is to be used. So you have virtually been asked to wait that your application is under consideration, because the trustees are carrying out an evaluation of existing grants. So when they now move forward to consider the applications of which yours is among, the trustees will take into account the financial position of the application and purpose for which the grant is to be used. So it's an ongoing process. So at that point, you will pray that you have put your best foot forward for them to give you the assistance you require or that you ask for. Now, Mr. X is no longer asking as clerk to the trustees, and I am acting in this capacity. I should be grateful if you would ensure that any future correspondence is correctly addressed. So what the clerk up to the trustees is saying to you is essentially saying to your organization is that you didn't do your homework properly and you have misaddressed or misdirected your letter. So next time, please do it in a better form so that we can, respond to you. All right, class. I think that I've had fun bringing this to you, and I believe it's been a great learning time for every one of you. And I just want you to understand that writing successful proposal letters is nothing difficult, putting it lightly. You will be able to do that for any kind of grants or any kind of financial assistance or assistance in kind that your organization requires to be able to meet its strategic objectives. I wish you the very best, even as we continue to look out for improvement in living conditions all over the world for respective people, communities, societies, and nations. Thank you very much.